This week I sat down with Ross Hudgens, CEO of Siege Media. They have offices in Austin and San Diego and over 80 employees and are on pace to do $10 million in revenue this year. Ross and I dove deep into how he built the agency, how he's hiring, how they're managing, and a lot about their services because they've got a very awesome specialty when it comes to content and link generation that gets awesome results for clients, but also helps them position themselves uniquely in the market and sign a lot of clients. So we dug deep into that. As always, if you guys like these, make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, make sure to check out our podcast because I repost these up there. Join us on Slack, and let's get into the interview. All right, so we are live with Ross Hudgens of Siege Media. Ross, why don't you just start by telling people a little about yourself and your story, how Siege came to be.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ryan. Good to be here. I'm founder of Siege Media, and we're 80-person content marketing agency specialized in SEO. And my background's in link building at the beginning and building websites from scratch on a lead gen perspective. And I just had a boss who micromanaged me, had done some personal blogging on the side to kind of build a brand, which got me some clients on the side. Eventually didn't like that boss, quit. And the rest is history, as they say.
So you were at an agency or you were in-house when you said what the boss
actually was at an agency people know, Single Grain, which is still active today by Sujan Patel, who's also a pretty well-known guy. Was really lucky to have Sujan as a mentor and now friend.
Sujan's nice dude. Yeah, I didn't know you were at Single Grain.
Yeah, it evolved, and I was there. That was actually my first job out of college, and it evolved. Sujan sold it to Eric, I think, at one point. Mm-hmm. And after that, I was at a Full Beaker, which is a lead gen. That was my last job, lead gen company.
And how long have you had Siege for now? So Siege was the first venture off the back of those?
Exactly, yeah. 8 years. Going on 8 in August.
Okay, so wow. 8. Good for you, man. Congratulations. And you said you had 80 people. That's between, you have offices, I went to one in San Diego, obviously, but you're also in Austin now as well, too, right?
Yes, and New York, actually. We have
New York. Awesome. Congrats. When did that open up?
End of last year. So around 5 people there.
Okay, cool. Small. And how have you decided which markets to enter in terms of dropping an office there?
Yeah, it was a good question. For Austin specifically, it was a short flight, good city I liked. I now live in Austin. That was one justification. I think you should enjoy whatever city you pick. There were definitely a tech center. We've gotten way more clients in the couple of years we've been here than we had gotten in the history in San Diego. San Diego is good for agencies, but not many big brands there. Cost of living doesn't hurt that you're not paying state income tax in Austin.
We got that here too, yeah. So that's interesting. So because I'm in Miami, and I've said a lot that I've been doing some sort of service here for 8 to 10 years now, and I've probably only worked with 2% of all the people I've ever worked with have been from Miami in terms of clients. So I've definitely seen that here. Miami businesses tend to want to spend maybe on a car rather than an agency, so it's a little bit different of a market here. But I didn't realize the full impact of that. So you're saying in Austin, like, how have you been generating local business? Have you been sending people out to do like networking, or is it just being in proximity that companies are reaching out to with RFPs?
Definitely being proactive. So trying to reach out to other people I respect and just playing long game, saying because I enjoy it, talking to other entrepreneurs, marketers, stuff like that. And just, that's an enjoyable part as well of just like getting coffee, picking their brain, and then it's long-term led into something. And then naturally you have one good client that you do well for, word gets out in a small community.
For sure.
Which Austin is a big city. It's not New York by any means. So the SEO community is relatively small. So if someone's doing good work, people find out about it pretty fast.
And the people that you've been reaching out to, like for coffee there, targeted companies that you want to work with, you're just finding somebody at the company? Are you relying on other people to introduce you? Like, how are you guys going about that kind of like outbound process?
Yeah, good question. So we had a VA adding people that were kind of our targeted buyer persona in terms of a director of marketing, SEO manager, director of SEO on LinkedIn. And then I would just kind of let that sit for a while. And then eventually I would reach out to them and say, hey, I'd love to just get coffee with you, meet other smart people, which is true. I wasn't going in there for a pitch by any means. And yeah, that's kind of been one part of the process. And other people were just over time, I've connected with people and I just went through my list, said, let me build a deeper relationship with this person, and kind of did it that way too.
So I love that you've been doing that with LinkedIn with the VA. Are you still doing that now, or is that just kind of a small time test that you did?
Not as much. I feel like I could do more, but the response I got from our VA recently is that it was starting to dry up in terms of targets there.
So,
did you do a lot of that?
So it's funny because we're going through a major shift. We're constantly growing as entrepreneurs and learning. And one of the things, I think the biggest realizations I had this past year, just from talking to, doing interviews like this is awesome because I talk to a lot of smart people like yourself and I get kind of inside information to how people are growing. And a very common theme that I've seen is sales is better than I don't want to say better, but sales is more impactful than marketing when you're at a certain point. Meaning having the right conversations with the right people over the right period of time and turning that into a working relationship. Again, marketing is incredibly important. I think for a lot of reasons, obviously for inbound, but inbound is a mixed bag, right? You never know who's going to come to your website, but when you're doing outbound, like you said, like you're targeting people at companies that you already know are qualified. It's just a matter of getting in front of them the right way. And having a business conversation. So point is that, when the blueprint, I built an outbound sales training module and it all hinges on that. It hinges on the fact that, yeah, I think outbound gets a bad rap from people because marketers attempt it and marketers tend to ruin things very quickly. So instead of focusing on who's on the other side of that conversation and what sort of value you can bring to them, whether it's a coffee conversation, what have you, whatever, versus how can I automate this as quickly as possible? I think that's how marketers kind of ruined outbound, but really outbound is how most of the largest companies in the world grow to a certain point, So it's refreshing to hear that, especially that you're using VAs, because I talk about that a lot in my trainings. And it's something that I've been using. I've been having a lot of success on LinkedIn, and half the time I do have a VA on there who's responding to every single message, no matter who it's from, helping me respond to comments, stuff like that. And now we're pushing pretty heavily to what you basically just said, not necessarily at like having coffee, but more kind of like, what can we do virtually that's going to interest the person on the other line? Make them like me first. I think that's the first step. And then over time, maybe we can talk about business. So it's refreshing to hear that. So in terms of your sales process at the agency, do you have a sales team, biz dev? Like, how do you guys kind of structure that internally?
It actually been just me for 8 years until literally Monday. We had someone who came from off maternity leave, Caroline, who's great strategist, and she's going to help me kind of like finally have a full-time body. Although I do think that's not completely true. We have a video person who we do a lot of marketing. I think it is helpful. That is basically a salesperson for the most part. She does do some client content, but for the most part, she's scaling me up by allowing us to create high quality content really quickly while I can still be focused on the business too.
Yeah. And I didn't mean to downplay marketing. I'm obviously a marketer first. Everything I do is marketing.
No, I mean, I agree. I do think especially enterprise too, like there is an element of, and it's who your buyer persona is also. Like I honestly not. There's some good SEO managers and stuff for our clients, but I'd rather have like the director of marketing who we're giving the most value because we also understand SEO and
yeah. And I think you're right in a sense too that the SEO industry is very unique, right? Like it's actually, so you're creating content for other SEOs in a sense. Sometimes they're agencies, but really realistically, you're trying to connect with an internal SEO person at a big company, right? For enterprise. So I do think that our industry is so unique that the SEO industry is so active on social media in terms of content, conferences, networking, stuff like that, that marketing works really well for SEO and content marketing agencies because the content that you're creating is getting in front of those people and ultimately getting run up the chain in some form or another and getting you relationships there as well. I just, it's just seeing again how like some of these agencies have grown marketing is usually to get to like the first million, first 5 million, and then sales, from what I've seen, is really when they get to like the 50, 100 and beyond that, because of the ability to, again, go out and prospect for the right companies, the right person, and build those relationships over time, and really just increase deal size, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I should say one positive thing that I've come across with the VA work is you do find there's synergistic, especially in our smaller community. Like I do get a lot of these people that I even connected to randomly. We saw your videos, we saw your content. So I think that helps to kind of like connect the dots and not feel like completely cold because they saw something you did. But that's not possible everywhere for sure.
For sure. And you guys do a lot of marketing at Siege. Are you the one who's ultimately still responsible for that as well, or do you guys have a team internally that's helping you? Because you guys create quite a bit of content.
Content besides our video person who kind of scaled that up.
Mm-hmm.
We are thinking about a new process where we should have been doing this earlier, where anytime our content marketers had a little spare time, maybe we build some keyword driven articles with that spare time and try to rank for that and see if we can build our list off that and then hopefully turn it into the customers down the line. So that's one thing that's kind of come out of this pandemic that I'm kind of excited about.
Mm-hmm.
Like process thinking of we come free in terms of time, we apply it to our own selves. And who knows how that'll work in terms of sales qualified leads. I'm sure they won't be as amazing as search tends to not be as amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the things I'm working on right now from our team will just naturally be marketers for us.
Nice. That's really smart. And talk to me a little bit more about Siege's service, because I think that you guys have done a really good job in terms of positioning, in terms of, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but people might not come to you for just SEO. They're coming to you for a very specific type of SEO, right?
Correct. So we describe ourselves as a content marketing agency that specializes in SEO. So it is a lot of enterprise companies who the SEO is big enough where they will hire a technical person a lot of times and then us, because SEO is such a big thing that you need experts on all of those points to do a good job these days. So the line item is big enough that we've built it. And thank you for saying that. I feel like that niche of saying that's the one thing we do a part of this equation versus just saying we do everything SEO has allowed us to kind of like build an positioning advantage there.
Absolutely. And I mean, the work that you guys produce is very, I don't want to say unique as well, because I've been on your website quite a bit and I've seen a lot of like the production you guys do, which is top notch. I mean, like you guys are taking much more of a holistic content strategy too, right? Or you just mainly blog? Like, how do you guys decide what kind of content to create for a client?
Yeah, we try to be, I describe it as we do lighter weight content. So we're doing a lot of link building for sure. So we're starting at the like building. A lot of people come to us for link building where they're trying to build the authority of their website. Mm-hmm. But we try to tie it back to the content strategy for sure and like change the conversation of let's drive brand value. Let's drive top funnel awareness. Let's drive middle funnel sales and awareness. And kind of like do the full gamut in terms of work there. And we do sprinkle in things like UX design of a homepage, blog redesigns. I kind of describe it now as like we specialize in single page SEO experiences.
Okay.
And then the digital PR component that connects it all.
Okay. So I guess it's tough to say kind of generally, but the content you're creating, is it like a link first content? Because I know, again, you guys do like a lot of infographics. You guys do a lot of research based assets that are tremendous at building the true white hat links, right? Is that like the majority of the work that you guys do, or is that kind of like case by case?
We're definitely completely white hat. That's how we describe it. I would say we are very visual, so we tend to be more B2C because I think that does fit kind of the B2C world a little bit more in terms of inspiration and photography and videography. So we definitely do a lot of, one of the things I say to clients is we do shareable assets, visual assets on the site. Infographics are a big piece, but it could be a survey piece. It could be photos. It could be a video. All those shareable components come from design and lower the friction to someone linking to our clients. So that's one of the like big thesis of what we do is lower the friction to someone linking to you through high quality content that's visual.
And I think that style of link building, again, I think one of the well, I don't want to speak for you guys. I think one of the reasons why you guys have grown so amazing. I saw you post that you guys were on a 10 million run rate. Congrats, by the way. It is because of that very specialized. Like when people think link building and they go to a link building agency, it's usually garbage, right? Like people come to us and be like, "Hey, we need links." I'm like, "You don't need links. You need PR is what you actually need, because like you have 10 backlinks pointing to your whole website. Like the type of links that we're going to build, it's probably not, you know what I'm saying? They're a little bit more aggressive here. Like the link building that we do as an agency is usually more for companies. Like you guys are kind of getting links in mass, raising authority. We're getting links in very small quantities just to raise specific rankings. That means that previously they should have worked with an agency like yours that's getting these, what I call like PR style SEO links, which is, like press links. They get syndicated, they get pushed to 1,000 high quality websites, which does all that plus all the, the other outreach too. So I want to talk a little bit more about kind of your content process, because I do think that the ability to get PR style links when doing link building does hinge on the content asset, right? So like, what does your process look like to understand and come up with ideas for how to build the right piece of content that's going to go very well with an outreach campaign?
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things is we'll look at the buyer persona of the client. So where is their buyer persona, and then where is the alignment with that buyer persona in linkable markets? So we'll try to identify what is this topically relevant area, because you will see shitty link building where it's like off topic, doesn't make sense. We think sustainability and also additional brand value comes from that synergy. So we'll start there. So there is just a bigger list of like, what is the linkable audience? So that could be resource pages, which tends to be like link pages or broken link building type resource guides that are more serious subjects. It could be, those examples of that are like senior citizens or veterans or things like that. And then there are just different blogger markets that have different characteristics. There's like business bloggers tend to be higher authority. There's lifestyle bloggers. There's wedding planners. We kind of have a full list of those. Mm-hmm. Then we take the audience and then we align content types to it. So we also have go-to content types, which could be a survey. It could be an infographic. It could be a how-to post. It could be top funnel search volume driven. It could be a big guide. It's kind of like taking those steps and aligning it to the appropriate asset and then creating it, promoting it, and kind of rinsing and repeating that process.
So once you have the asset created, how do you guys then transition into the link building element? I'm assuming you have a content and link building team, two separate teams. What does kind of the interface between those two teams look like? Are they like meeting, having conversations, or is the link building team just building a list of prospects and then kind of firing off pitches?
So it's a good question. We actually don't. So the designers are their own beast, but the writers are the same as the outreach people for us. And I know that's unique for link builders, but one of the philosophies or reasons we did that, because it burns you out doing link building and trying to be, and maybe it's like technically a slightly bad business decision, but it, I think, helps retention for our team. It helps give them more learnings on search and research and writing. So we decided to have our content marketing specialists do research writing, and then they hand it off to a designer. Then they take back over and do outreach. I do think that helps in terms of thinking about outreach upfront. So that's a big component, is really the content marketers are doing a lot of outreach. I don't know if that answers your question, because
No, it does. It does. And actually I have a question on the back of that. So that position, that person who you're calling the writer, is that position called like a content marketer, content strategist?
Content marketing specialist.
Content marketing specialist. So this person basically has to be able to write. They have to be able to have some kind of concept on marketing strategy, and then also understand the outreach process. Now, are they doing their own prospecting too, or do they have a list of prospects?
They are. We do have a big database. So one of our advantages over time, because we have been eight years, we have thousands of people we've reached out to. So there are some shortcuts and relationships we have within Buzzstream, link building CRM, which I'm sure most of your audience is aware of. That kind of gives us a shortcut there as well. But we primarily go through Google. One of our philosophies is if Google is valuing this and we find it through Google, that's positive. There probably is additional value in terms of having someone prospect or use like citation labs and things like that. Mm-hmm. But we just, we haven't chopped it up to date.
No, I think it makes sense the way that you're doing it again because I think one of the struggles in doing this type of link building because we've tried it in the past, man, and honestly, like it's quite a bit of work in terms of like ideating the right piece of content and then also getting a successful outreach campaign off the back of it. It's a lot of moving pieces. So to have the person who's ideating the strategy up front then understands also what the end goal is to get links, they're going to have a much easier understanding of who they should be contacting when it comes time to do so. So you guys use Buzzstream. Do you send your emails through there too? Do you guys use like a pitch box or is it all manual? How do you guys handle that?
We use Buzzstream. So we've been in Buzzstream for a long time. We like it. By no means perfect. I think we evaluated, you'd have to ask Caroline who actually did this evaluation. We evaluated Pitchbox at one time. I think what the maybe was there's a little too honestly verbal for like paid link building or maybe link cleanup and things like that. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
No, I do. I think Pitchbox is much better for mass outreach campaigns. Like if you were going to be sending the type of link building you're doing is PR. Like it's really, in my opinion, it's you're getting links from it, but you're really doing much more of a PR service, right? Like if you're going out and you're prospecting one by one when the time is right and basically sending one-to-one emails, that's PR. Where to me, link building is much more of like, this is our niche, this is our asset, this is our pitch, let it fly, And I in that sense, which most link builders are doing, there's nothing that can touch Pitchbox, but Buzzstream is also a tremendous tool. Again, if you're doing more PR style stuff, or like resource page link building, like literally going through kind of one by one at that time and sending the email at that time, I do think that Buzzstream is a superior solution for that. I think it's just, again, it depends on what you're trying to do and what you're trying to get from it. They're both really good platforms. So, excuse me, for these campaigns, right? Now your content specialist or strategist has the asset done, the designer finished it. They're going through their prospecting and they're sending emails. How many emails do they usually send per campaign? Do you give them like, hey, you have to send X amount, or is it just about how many results they get back? Like, how do you kind of monitor that?
Yeah, good question. I mean, our kind of typical goal is around 100 emails per asset. So we sell units to our clients. So these units will be intervals of time of what we can accomplish during that. And we know that is somewhat limited to a degree. Like some markets are bigger than 100. Some are actually smaller than 100. But one of the ways we think about that is if an asset doesn't do as well, we can then re-promote other assets at that time. Or if it's like not doing well, we could put those emails towards that other piece that probably had 170 emails that could have been sent. Or if we have enough, like if we have bigger clients we're doing like 4 pieces a month for, we'll actually shift to a retainer model where we might just add outreach hours on top of that to kind of milk those existing campaigns, or maybe more of the pieces that have more outreach emails available to them. But it's also a nice kind of like minimum viable. We learn a lot in that 100, and we know we should start sending more at the end of that 100
Gotcha.
Pretty consistently.
Got you. And how do you manage like your load balance with this? If one person, are you just kind of like, do you assign a certain number of projects per person, or are you managing more at the hours level?
Yeah, it's really, we've gotten the feedback that people can handle like 4 quality assets per month. So basically 1 per week with a little overlap. Average week is like 4.33 days, or 4.33 weeks, average month. So figured that math out with like PTO and stuff like that. It basically kind of factors into 1 per week of, it's like a quality asset that we spend around 72 total hours between the whole team. And there's a manager in there too. I know you talked about them as a strategist. A lot of content marketers will still be learning as they go, and a manager is in there in the weeds giving feedback on stuff. They're not doing execution work, but that is a component of it that's heavily there too.
Got you. So with your contracts, are you selling assets kind of like as a like an asset, or one campaign is X amount, or are you sending, because I also heard you mention outreach hours, or are you basing your contracts based on hours?
So we sell units. So a lot of clients, I mean, we don't try to be just link building. For some clients, we're just doing content assets. So that could just be 1 unit. Just depends on the client, but it might be 16 or 18 hours, say, is a unit of blended time. So that could be just a simple blog post. we do say like you get up to 4 posts or you get up to 4 units, and now you're like it's good enough to promote, and now we have enough time to promote it also. That's kind of how I phrase it to potential clients. And clients will sign up for, say, 8 units of content a month, and then we'll pitch 12 units of ideas against that. Typically, they're at that 4-unit interval where we're doing outreach a lot, and probably doing 2 of those per month for a lot of our clients. And that's kind of how we think about it.
And for the most part, does every asset that you create then have an outreach campaign tied to the back of it?
Not everyone. So basically anyone above 4, but that's part of our expertise as well. Is like we do know like something that's middle funnel is just not going to be promotable and just might not have an outreach market, but it still has value to the client because we see it has like traffic value and other value like that. So that's one way we justify it to clients in pitching.
And then how do you factor in design on top of that? So like if somebody comes to you and they purchase a set number of units for content, but then you're like, yo, your blog design sucks. Like, how do you kind of broach that? Because I see that a lot too. It's like a lot of customers, design is subjective, right? Like some people see it and some people don't. So, and that, a better looking blog is just going to perform better it's going to make your job a lot easier. How do you broach that conversation? Do you show them data or you just kind of tell them that their blog sucks?
A mix of both. I wish if you have data on this, by the way, I'd love to see it, but I do say to clients, we have to do a blog redesign up front or we won't work with you. And I do know that they don't come to you, as you mentioned, no one comes to us wanting a blog redesign. We just tell them they need it. So one of the things I mentioned is like, and I think it's realistic, larger than that. So if you just do simple math on like a cost per link and then that adjusted, you'll make your ROI back on that blog redesign. And then the other part is we'll try to charge that almost at cost for the same. It's like this will get us going for the lifetime value of the client. So why not do that?
Yeah, I've never really measured in terms of tangible results for blog redesigns. I'm also very picky about blog designs. I just know this is just, I always look at myself. Like if I'm on Twitter, I see a great headline, I click on it and then I go to it and I'm like, yo, like I can't, like, what am I looking at here? You know what I'm saying? Like if it's like the text is like all the way across, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I always push that on people too. It's just that we're creating content so it's going to be consumed. If you have a website that's just not conducive to be consumed, like traffic's going to bounce, people aren't going to stay on it. The data might not show it necessarily in terms of sales, but like it's just something intuitively that as a marketer that's happening. But the challenge that we face though too is that if we redesign the blog, then and the rest of the website sucks, then it then becomes a $50,000 project that they didn't really sign up for. So we were doing that for a while, but InDesign was something that I really want to start pushing on clients because we have an amazing team of designers, but we're just keeping them for internal projects now because design is it's very subjective, like I said, and you can build something that you think is beautiful and the client looks at it and they're like, no, this is terrible. So we've just tried to get out of that until I can get like a true chief creative officer in place. And it's something that it's been tough for me to manage from the agency point of view.
I mean, I agree with you. Like if they come with a bad website, I probably wouldn't even respond to them. If it's just the blog, that's at least maybe that often happens. Like they haven't thought through content marketing specifically, then we'll pitch that. But I agree with you.
You mentioned, I think you tweeted it like yesterday. You were talking about manual versus passive link building, right? You want to unpack that thought a little bit? I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, that's a big component of just what I think another differentiation we have is that we try to do stuff that actually drives brand value. And if we're doing top funnel and middle funnel content, sometimes there's passive link acquisition opportunity associated with that. So our cost per link will actually go down for a lot of clients over time. Not every market has a lot of these like passive link opportunities, but basically an example, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have seen statistic posts. Another thing I've seen consistently be a passive link target are like definitional posts, like what is content marketing or inbound marketing? Yeah. Someone's going to go grab that definition. It's basically like anytime someone's going to go grab something and then put it somewhere else with a query, like the cost of home remodeling your bathroom. Someone grabs that number. That's something that you as a link builder could help your clients rank for. And then naturally with the good design as well, if they can rank well for that, you'll have a passive link engine And then there's incremental stuff too. That's like the mega powerful. And then there's just ranking for a lot of top funnel stuff. We'll also just passively acquire that as you compound and have more of that for ranking for your clients too.
Yeah. In regards to the more manual stuff, are you guys doing only the PR style link building that we talked about, like on the back of assets, or are you doing like, I guess, more of the traditional types of SEO links to maybe like a guest post or something like that?
So we're always pitching. We suggest hosted content always to our clients. The one exception, and I was thinking this when you're talking about it, there's rare exceptions where a client won't be able to get a blog live. We might like pitch Dropbox assets that are still designed that don't live on the blog. That's one workaround. Like someone could find this blog post and link to it. That can't happen with cold pitching. Guest posts do happen with our work where we're pitching assets and we say, hey, just to continue to lower friction, which is just another theme, we say, we'll write a custom introduction for you, but we don't just pitch copy on its own like I know a lot of people do. Yeah. It's more like we go in the door with this asset and just a guest post happens to be how it comes out. We're okay with that outcome. And hopefully we get a higher value to guest post because of that threshold and better content too.
And then this is just something that I would love your opinion on because you guys are doing a lot of outreach as well. But when you do the outreach, are you finding that a lot of people are asking for some sort of monetary thing in exchange, or are you targeting mainly like New York Times style journalists? You know what I'm saying?
We definitely get those requests, but that's kind of where understanding a lot of the linkable markets comes in. So like personal finance bloggers, we will never come up with an idea that ties to personal finance bloggers because they will always ask you for money. And there's definitely subtlety to the client as well. Like if you have an ugly website, then you get that ask all the time. There's definitely a connection. The worse the content, or maybe the sales CTAs are too aggressive, you get that ask. So it's a balance, but I think we get them, but we try to specifically avoid verticals where we expect those more often.
Got you. And how do you deal with it? Do you ever pay them, or are you just kind of like, that's really not what we're looking for here?
We don't. We do think it's a slippery slope. I could see how it could work with some companies or maybe different businesses, but it's always been a great area in terms of training our team. And then we do work with a lot of big brands, and I've seen them try to keep it black and white.
Yeah, I got
Not
you.
Against it religiously. I can understand if you get asked, but that's just kind of worked out. And I do think it could.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, it could decline in value over time potentially if like there's any kind of footprint. You can typically tell unless you're just a machine. I'm sure you and I could write those every time, but like at scale for a junior content marketing specialist out of college, like, am I confident they're going to write a post or like communicate that well such that it will look natural? I'm not every single time.
I feel you. And so are you guys using like link quotas in your contracts? Like, does a client come to you expecting a certain number of links?
We set expectations of what success looks like, but not guarantee it, basically.
Gotcha.
Because of all these elements, we're not. Yeah, it's not fixed. Yeah.
And I feel like that's an area where we've gotten, like years ago when we were doing a lot of link building, was that we were giving quotas. We were telling them X links per month, and that was putting us in a situation where when someone's like, yeah, I'll post you for $100, we're like, okay, you know what I mean? Just because like when you have those quotas to meet. So I think, doing it that way, it's a much tougher sell to people, but now that you guys have the reputation, obviously in the case studies, it's a lot easier. But I think a lot of smaller agencies struggle with that because, I know for myself, if I'm paying for link building specifically to get links, then like, I'm going to want to know basically what my cost per link is. And it's tough to be like, it could be 100, but it could be 1,000, it's a much tougher sell. And again, I think if removing the quotas allows you to really hyper focus on the fact that you're going to get the best links possible and nothing less. And if you are getting the best links possible, then people are much more willing to pay $1,000 per link because they know that it's only going to push them forward.
You do set a standard with them too, where we definitely have months where we're like 20% below expectation. One of the things I say is like, if we're ever 50% below, we'll refund you a percent based on that quota. But if it's only 20%, well, the next month we very often will be 30% above. So it just doesn't make sense to do that. So that's kind of a nice balance that might allow you to get away with that more often. And I personally don't want to be just a link client. I want to be more touch points. I think that also makes you stickier, add more value as an agency. So that's another reason why just an SEO manager hiring us who just wants pure links and doesn't understand the other stuff isn't always my favorite client.
For sure. And do you feel like, I mean, how do you feel like about the future of kind of content and links? Do you feel like you're comfortable for another 5-10 years operating, in the same way, maybe with some minor adjustments, obviously, but do you feel comfortable in the future of this?
Yeah. I think the way we're doing it, I feel good about it. I was just like thinking about some of this big link bait stuff I see is like, we're creating assets that would have brand value on its own. I do think it's possible that the link side goes down slightly. And that's why I wouldn't want to just be a pure link vendor.
For sure.
I want to be doing multiple touch points of value. So I feel good about that. That said, I want to continue to do stuff like UX design and be adding a lot of different value and helping people solve for passive link acquisition, and all those things are good. But I'm curious, what's your opinion on those things?
I mean, my opinion is similar. Like I don't think it's necessarily the right approach, but I'm much more reactionary when it comes to these things as opposed to proactive. Like when I really look at my history and career of being an SEO for the last 10, 12 years, very little has actually changed, right? It's just, it's really kind of the semantics of how you do things. So like 6 months ago, a little bit less maybe, I actually bought the rights back to my agency, and I'm kind of rebuilding this thing from the ground up, and really looking at kind of like what our unique value in the market is, and the type of work that we don't like to do, which is actually ironically mainly link building and content marketing. just because of it's different the way that you guys are doing it. Like if you're writing like 4 blog posts a week and then hitting it with links, like it just, especially at lower budgets, it becomes way more headache. And again, like the whole concept of opinion, like when somebody can have an opinion to look at something and be like, this is bad after you think it's good. It's just not an area that we wanted to operate anymore. So we've shifted much more to kind of our core competency, which is much more kind of like SEO consulting. We do content strategy. We do link strategy. We'll partner them with a vendor that we trust. I've actually tried to like push people your way too. You might be a little bit too pricey for that type of stuff. But when I truly believe that link building is just not a good option for a client, I just tell them that you need links, but we're not going to do it for you. But we will be that kind of like, almost kind of like SEO AOR in a sense, right? Like we don't do anything outside of SEO, but really our core competency is really, we have the reputation, we have the trust, we can get results, but really, kind of having someone on the other line that they can trust, and they can, have conversations with them once a month, do really good kind of keyword research on page, again, content strategy, and then help them partner with the right writer. And we'll just, partner them with a link vendor again. And it works pretty well for us. But in terms of the future, like, we're also shifting much more to technology based, actually. It's a whole nother topic about what we're doing with BigQuery and stuff, but we're basically trying to automate all of our deliverables and reporting through BigQuery, and then we're selling that as a service to agencies, which is actually kind of fun. So that's really the core of what we're doing. Yeah, we've been shifting more towards technology, and really I prefer to work with agencies over clients anyway. So our agency side of things, in terms of like client facing, is small. We're using it because when people come to you, they want to pay you, and I have a really capable operations manager. We're happy to take their money, but I prefer to work with agencies. It's just a much more rewarding relationship for me. And
that's smart with obviously what you're doing at Blueprint.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think the future of our industry is great. Honestly, I actually think that now is probably the best time in my 10, 12 years of doing this, that SEO is really, like, the dust is finally settled. It's hard. It's a lot of work, but that's why it's a good industry to be in my opinion, because a lot of kind of like the pretenders of just, they've gone to do drop shipping. They've gone to do like Shopify stuff. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's become like, I think that the industry now is a professional services industry. Like we're kind of like what web development is in a sense. Like you pretty much need an SEO either in-house or on retainer. And that's not going to change as long as people use Google or any sort of search, right? So I think we're very, very safe. And I also think, I really do believe that now is a good time to get into like SEO consulting because companies need you and it's really hard to find good advice from people. And part of the reason is because there's really less of us out there because a lot of people have left the industry to be like, I'm going to do ads, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Which is great. It's hard. It's a lot of work. But again, if you can even focus on a niche within a niche, kind of like what you guys have done, like you have a $10 million company, like it's still a good time to be in this. You just have to know what you're doing. That's really what it comes down to,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, super competitive. It's getting more competitive, but you're right. I think the people that know it's because it's more complex that pretenders are dying off or leaving and all of those things. As long as you can deal with that complexity, you're more attractive.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I think if you're a little bit more of a all-encompassing digital marketer, like, you guys being able to connect the dots between search, content, and like PR and outreach is solving a big problem, and again, it fits in perfectly too with what companies are actually looking to give to an agency. Now that I have companies and we're actually talking to agencies, I understand how wrong our positioning was like 4 years ago. You need to be able to come in and solve very specific problems that a lot of companies are having, which you guys have done masterfully, and I think if you can do that again, I mean, with any business, then you can have success.
I agree. I mean, a lot of agencies, I think that's just don't get the position at all.
That's 100%.
I'm sure you see it all the time, but
yeah, again, I talk to a lot weekly for the last 6 months. Basically, I've been talking to different agency owners, and it's so awesome to hear the commonalities that successful agency owners have kind of been through and gone through. Just a different level of understanding about and positioning is one of those things. Pretty much everyone that I've spoken to that's really killing it has picked some sort of, now I don't want to call it a niche, I would say more of a specialty, right? Whether that's working, with software companies, attorneys, again, doing a very specific type of content marketing, link building, what you guys are doing, but just at a very high level. It's definitely a commonality that I've heard from the agencies and like really breaking through and hitting that next level of revenue growth. Which has been pretty awesome. But you do more than just the agency stuff, right? Are you still doing the affiliate stuff?
I sort of. It's basically just cash flowing at this point. Gotcha. Honestly, I don't want too many people digging into it. We do. I'll give a story. We have a side site, and ironically, we didn't even do our own content marketing on it.
Interesting.
We used a link vendor who I knew was going to do paid link building. It got penalized in Q4. And basically, the reason we did that is because it was an afterthought. I do think focus is everything. Personally, and that was one of my things I've learned is just dialing down focus-wise. And I think you can hire operators and stuff like that, but that has been important. So that site we're barely paying attention to. I assume you know what it is, given you asked me that. I forget if we talked about it before.
I haven't seen the site. I knew, I knew you had it, and I knew it was doing really well for a while. But I hadn't really heard anything else about that.
Yeah, it was doing really well. I mean, Amazon, it was in an Amazon vertical. That's just another reason it's now not attractive because they cut fees in half for anyone who's not aware of that. And also it was, home product reviews. So there's a lot of publishers who are entrenching in that space. It's just an affiliate without any brand value. I couldn't see a reality where us not going all in was, I should have sold it earlier. That was definitely a mistake, but without focus, it's not going to do super well.
It's again refreshing to hear you say that as well. That's been another huge learning for me in the last year. And I'm actually liquidating pretty much everything that doesn't align with what we're doing. So we have 3 companies. We have the Blueprint, we have Webrus, the agency, and we have Coding is for Losers. What we're trying to do is vertically align them all running on this backbone of BigQuery. So building what we call these data pipelines, selling that to customers through Webrus, right? You can just come hire us as an agency, but we're going to be using that stack. Coding is for Losers. We actually build those custom for companies. We'll build your own data BigQuery pipeline. And then at the Blueprint, we're basically using that system and training those systems and people. So we're trying to vertically align all that and all the other stuff that I had going on. I had a WordPress plugin. I had a couple of side sites. My Facebook group, I liquidated them all in the past 6 months, just getting them all off my plate. Because I've realized too, probably the same as you, if I'm not waking up every day and doing one thing, then I'm going sideways. I'm not going forward, right? I think A lot of people
Yeah.
don't realize, they think that because of like the investment mindset or like the entrepreneurial like ADD mindset of like you have to have a million things going on, it's detrimental, right? If you can focus on just solving one problem and be the best in the world at it, you're going to do a lot better. Again, if you have to stop every day, and that's a little thing too, people don't realize it's not about being able to do multiple things at a time. It's the little things that really detract from it. Like if somebody just taps you on the shoulder, you're like, hey Ross, like, our site just got penalized. That your whole focus is out the door, right? Whatever you're doing for Siege is out the door for the next week, right? It's little things like that. So, I mean, how did you kind of come across that realization for yourself?
I don't know. I mean, I do think just over time you realize this is not growing, this is not going well. It's hard to put focus on it because of that disconnect. Like I do think, as you kind of touched on, probably SEO evolving was that aha partially for that other site. Honestly, transparently, I don't know if you talked to Jonathan already, but we were doing Growth Comment.
Mm-hmm.
We recently made that free. It's just hard to grow the thing with focusing on an agency that's not vertical. I mean, I like that you're vertically aligning the thing. Yeah. And I do honestly enjoy just being in a group with other smart people. I don't even need to make money from the thing. That's cool with me. And I can 100% focus on what we're doing from agency side, dial that in, and eventually I can do something else. But for now, everything on this one goal, growing this.
So Growth Comment is free now.
The course is free, but the Slack group is free. The course is still paid, but the Slack group is free.
Gotcha. Yeah, I thought I saw that you guys went to a one-time payment model, right? Away from the monthly.
Yeah, it was kind of tough, and I don't know your own experience, but it was, Jonathan's super busy. I'm super busy. We made the course. It's still very valuable in my opinion, but the actual Slack group, I think, was kind of marginal value because it was big enough because we weren't marketing it. And if I marketed that, and I think its own lesson on focus, if I marketed that, it felt like a distraction from Siege. I had in my profile works at growth, or I founded Growth Comment, and I removed that from my profile. And this might just be a Twitter like algorithm thing, but my follower growth went up like 2x just by removing Growth Comment.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. Which makes sense from like a keyword optimization if that's part of it, or maybe just someone looked at a profile and was like, I'm interested in content marketing. I don't give a shit about this agency thing he's going to talk about. So now I'll follow him. Probably maybe a mixture of both. I'm not sure.
Yeah. We had so we used to do monthly at the Blueprint when we first launched, but when it comes to courses, like monthly is just not a good option because people churn really fast. There's nothing you can do about it. People can go through and consume the content in 2 days if they want to, and then churn out. And we actually recently, so we have also a bunch of product, like we have 22 modules in our course, and you could buy them each individually, like keyword research content, technical, blah, blah, blah. Just this past week, we consulted, like we're moving much more to like a forced sales model, almost in a sense. Like the only option to get in is to buy the full Blueprint. We have the Slack group as well, but we're locking it down to basically force people through that. Because when we looked at what's awesome about my partner David is that his ability to analyze data and like build customer reports is amazing. So we basically built like kind of this revenue and churn report, just looking at the past year of the Blueprint and looking at our initial hypothesis was if they buy the monthly report for $100, it's a tripwire product to get them into the full one. And what we found was that it didn't work like that. Like we made quite a bit of money selling individual modules, but they weren't converting into full Blueprint members. So and when we look at the difference between revenue between that and also really when you have like learned so much about courses this year, like the key is really getting people to go through the course actually. Because after somebody goes through the course, they get value from it, they put it into practice, they get results, they're going to become your loudest advocate between sending you DMs that you can post publicly, between video testimonials, between them telling other people, between them being active in the Slack channel and posting their wins, like all these things. It's crazy how like that is actually the most impactful thing about growing a course is getting people through it to consume it and then becoming an advocate. That was just a long-winded explanation of my thought on it, but if you ever want some tips on course stuff, man, I'm happy to give you because I've spent this.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like that was my first time doing a course. We have a Siege Learner. We have a Siege Media content marketing course that we use for our own training as well. But it's definitely been a learning experience. And but yeah, it makes sense what you're saying. We thought lowering the price point, still a premium product, and people in Slack and could do, down the line, you'll have an audience and you can do whatever the hell you want to do with it.
Yeah. Courses are tough, man. I mean, especially in the SEO industry, because people are so damn skeptical, and there's so much garbage, but I love it, man. Of any business I've ever worked on, it's to me, it's the best. I mean, the money's great. The margins are amazing, obviously, but again, too, like to me, it sounds cheesy, but like the relationships that you do get to, when people go through the content that you've literally spent 10 years building and understanding, like there really is so much value to it, right? Like the learnings that you and Jonathan have been through growing your agency that size, hiring all those people, like the only way to understand how to hire 80 people is to have hired 80 people before, or to listen to someone who's done it. You know what I mean? So, there's so much value, and it's almost unfortunate because I feel like the SEO industry is so mature that people kind of like, are like, oh, I don't need that. Like, I don't really need that. They're a little bit prideful. They can figure it out, but like, dude, there's nothing wrong with learning something from someone else and paying for it too. Like if you can pay $1,000 to solve you 2 years worth of problems, it's a no brainer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's, similarly with our course, I justify it from a link standpoint. I'm like, you generate 2 links with one tip we have in there, like the $1,000, or if you value links at $1,000 per link, one link paid for the course, paid for itself.
So what's your plan for the course for the future? I guess, are you just going to kind of sunset it? Are you going to redo it, or what do you guys have in mind?
Are we talking about Siege or Growth Comet?
Growth Comet, yeah.
Growth Comet, just keep it up. I mean, it's pretty evergreen. So hopefully, I actually plan to do stuff like this and add good case studies and interviews to it, to continue to build it out and hopefully get smart people to share their own stories in a paid component. So yeah, that's the main goal, and maybe down the line we'll see. I'm not completely sure, but for now, yeah, just grow the community and then focus on Siege, and maybe a year and a half come back, do something else. But add to it. Yeah.
I haven't really seen any ads for it. Are you guys advertising it?
We're not. It's basically, I mean, I know it has super high value.
Isn't that why you partner with Dane? Come on, man. That's what he does.
He can't find time to do that stuff. He's
That's funny.
But
yeah, advertising.
Yeah, we should talk about that if you're.
Yeah, again, man, I'm happy to give you guys.
Give you a cut of it.
I'm happy to give you guys insights, man. I spent a lot of time. I mean, just another thing that you learn too is that courses tend to fizzle out after launch. But like, I mean, dude, just like anything, it's a business. You know what I mean? You got to keep it active. The more you put into it, the more you get out of it. Yeah, I mean, it's quite a bit of work, but again, and it's tough because both you guys have huge agencies with so many employees. It's tough to be like, am I not going to focus on my 80 people and put time into an e-learning course? You know what I'm saying? It's a tough trade-off, I get, but yeah, I mean, maybe there's something in the future, we could partner up on as well. We understand where our weaknesses are for sure. And we're really good with kind of taking people from consultant to like 7 figures, but going from 7 up, I feel like your course is really good for that because you guys have a lot more information in terms of, again, like the management side of things, right? And kind of like I guess I don't want to say the financials, but kind of like the business side of running an agency as well, not just like, here's how to do SEO, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the reality is a lot of the customers are exactly that range you're describing.
Yeah.
Of that. And then the other people you're describing might be a little more pessimistic and already feel like they already got shit figured out and not pay for it.
That's unfortunate.
Weirdly. But I have gone to conferences. I do think there's an interesting conference component potentially if we have conferences again ever.
Yeah.
But I've seen value from an agency conference I went to, and I could see something like that making sense potentially.
I tried to convince my partner, David, maybe it's a good thing that Inbound didn't happen, but I was like, we need to get a booth at Inbound, dude. I'm like, you put me on the floor at Inbound center booth with 30,000 agencies walking by. I'm like, come on, man, we can grow this. Really, they wanted like 50 grand. I was willing to do it because I really do believe that, like, I tend to spend a lot more money than he does, but I really do believe, I just believe in the product so much too. And I do believe that, like, if you get me in front of the right person, not even if you get me in front of people, like 30,000 people that are walking by, like, come on, man, we can make something happen here. But I agree. I mean, I'm good friends with the guys from Pitchbox too. And like, they built that entire business off of conferences. There's a lot of value to be had at conferences, for sure. So,
even running them actually is kind of what I was saying.
Oh, okay. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, I know. That's another thing to be bad at. I'm sure I would go 5 years of just doing it terribly. So
No,
not
I
in
mean,
a rush to do that.
I,
But
I think the people that do it, even though there's so much stress and so much capital that goes into it, I've actually never heard a conference owner being like, it was a bad idea. They're like, we didn't make money, but but
yeah,
the value that they get from it, I mean, just in terms of brand, especially in this industry, I feel like if you have a conference, it's looked at as a very prestigious thing. It lends a ton of credibility if you have a conference. Hey, but if you guys put one together, I'm happy to come speak. So
for sure. I've there's counter. I mean, I've heard Distilled say they had brand confusion where people didn't realize they were an agency for a while.
really
Yeah, that's
interesting.
what Will told me at one point.
Interesting. I haven't been to their I've heard it's an amazing conference.
Great, yeah.
Maybe it's how you run it. I mean, I know the guys at Traffic Think Tank do a really good job with it, and they've. I don't know the first thing about conferences, to be honest with you, so I'm not even going to comment on it. But anyways, we're about out of time, man. I appreciate you coming on and joining us in the middle of a workday. Tell the people one more time who you are and how to find you.
Yeah, Ross Hudgens, Siege Media. Find me on Twitter, and yeah, check out Growth Comment if you're interested. But yeah, just love to engage with you guys wherever.
Awesome. All right, Ross. Thanks for coming on, bro.
Cool. Thank you.
Talk soon, man. Take care.
Yeah.